So today we're going to talk about budgeting, but in a particular way, occasional expenses. And there's a few different ways to handle those. One, we can decide which ones we can handle within a month, within our cash flow, our budget for the month. Others, we have to have a plan, and we call that sinking funds. We want to have a sinking fund plan to save up the money we need for when that expense arrives. So I'm going to walk through my budget form and show you how that's done. So here you have a budget. This is a couple. One of them makes 80,000 gross. One of them makes 45,000. So a household income of 125,000. And this is your take-home pay. When I work with people on their budgets, many of you know if you work with me, we're usually going to budget the take-home pay. We'll make adjustments to the, if it's the withholding, retirement contributions, anything that happens before take-home pay. We'll address those and make sure they work with your set of goals. But that active budgeting every month, we're going to really focus on our take-home pay. So I'll scroll through this budget real quickly. It's one that's done. But just give you examples. These people, they look like they tithe on their gross. They've got kids' college. See here, retirement is before take-home pay. Here's their rent or mortgage amount. Their groceries, their dining out, gas, electric, water, right? These are the utilities. We've got vehicle gas, car insurance, $200, health insurance, medical, dental expenses. They have a HSA of some sort, so it's all before their take-home pay. They are debt-free. They don't have any loans. They have a cleaning service, some landscaping, Mad Money, a barber, tuition, daycare or private school of some sort, babysitting, and that's it. So their total expenses that they've budgeted thus far, $6,000 with about a little over $1,100 remaining. Now you might ask, what are these kind of rusty yellow categories? These are the categories for this couple that they don't have every month, or they haven't determined a monthly set amount yet. So they have savings up here, sinking funds. Savings is where a lot of this stuff will happen that we're going to talk about. They don't have an oil change every month. They don't have a car repair every month. They don't pay life insurance every month. They pay that annually because it's cheaper. They don't buy clothing every month. They don't buy gifts every month. There's monthly subscriptions, annual subscriptions, and vacation. They don't go on vacation every month. A lot of times when I'm talking to clients, if we have some extra money in the budget, we might turn some of those monthly subscriptions to just annual subscriptions. First, we'll make sure they're things we actually use. But many times, if you pay once annually, you can save either a month or two off the total annual cost because you paid up front. So what I've done is I've highlighted these categories and I've put them on the second page. So here we have those same categories, kind of in that same order, and we have a dollar amount here. And this is just a worksheet to play around with some of these items. So for instance, life insurance for this couple, their premiums are due in May. The cost is $1,200. There's no way, once I put this in, that they'd be able to pay $1,200 in 1 month. So they're going to have to save up for it. They don't have to save up every month, but they could, okay? And I'm going to put the actual expenses here. I'll put on this side, $1,200. All right, we'll even make these nice dollar signs. I like dollar signs. All right. Clothing. Well, they don't buy clothing every month, but every year they might buy clothes, let's say at Easter, maybe for Christmas, for gifts at different times. There are gifts here, but many times in our household anyway, clothing is usually sometimes a gift, but we don't buy it unless we really need it. So we look at the annual clothing budget and it's about $750, okay? Gifts, we'll include Christmas in there. It's going to be about $2,400 for this couple. $1,200 for Christmas and about $100 on average a month for different various things. Anniversary, baby shower, someone's birthday, things like that. So we're going to say it's about $2,400 a year. Their monthly subscriptions, they actually don't have any. They've done annual subscriptions, and their annual subscriptions, including their Amazon Prime, Costco, a couple different apps for their phone, total $300. Okay. Vacation, they spend $2,500 a year on vacation. Oil change, It's a couple times a year. Again, we're looking at the annual amount. I'll put that on here. And again, this is math I'll usually do on paper with a couple, but it's not bad to have a spreadsheet to do it for you as well. Oil changes just a couple times a year. It's about 65 bucks for an oil change. They have 2 different vehicles, so it's $130. Figure 3 times a year, so 400 bucks, right? Just did that in my head. Long-term savings, they have some goals. We'll talk about that in a minute. Car repair, they have an emergency fund if they need it. They could be adding money to it every year, but they don't have a planned car repair every year. Even brakes and tires last more than a year, so they don't need to do too much there if they're getting the oil changes done. So we've got no monthly subscriptions. We'll put a none in there. Sometimes I like that just as a placeholder so it jumps out at me. So here we go. This total here, I'm looking down here, $75.50, okay? So are there any of these things, right? This is like $65 each time. Are there any of these things that the budget itself could handle? I would say, yeah. Car repairs at any time, the budget could handle. Even a year's worth of shopping, this budget could handle. So I don't think they need necessarily a sinking fund for clothing. They could. Life insurance, they cannot handle. Gifts, they cannot handle. Vacation, they cannot handle it. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say these 3 items, I'm going to highlight them so we know what we're talking about. These are going to be the 3 items that we feel are appropriate for sinking funds. So what is the total that we have for these? It's $6,100. I'm going to put it down here. 6,100 bucks. That's the total we need. So every month, we're just going to do equals this divided by 12. It's just $508.33. So here's what I'm going to do. This is how I like to do it. We're going to put sync. Okay. Sync. We could do more. Sync. All right. So right now in sinking funds, $508. We're just going to say 510, round it off. So every month we've just taken care of these 3 because we've put them into our sinking fund category. So what does that mean? We'll have a bank account and we might fund it with whatever of these things are coming first, right? We'd have to look at that. But the idea would be every month we're going to put $510 into our sinking fund account. And that's going to be able to cover these items when they come. So now let's look at this. Now it's $648. That can't handle clothing. It can't handle our annual subscription. Oh, it could handle our annual subscription a month. It could handle oil change, but if our annual subscriptions are all due the same month and we've got oil changes and a possible car repair, let's say new tires, it's not going to work, right? We wouldn't be able to handle that with the remaining $648. So in addition, we are going to add our clothing. We're going to add our clothing to our sinking funds. So how do I do that real quickly? We're going to add that one down to there. $68.50. I have done that in my head. So we need to change this to $571. Okay. So that leaves $587. So we've got our sinking funds, those 3 items. So then what happens is I can go to back to my budget sheet, and for life insurance, clothing, gifts, and vacation, I'm just going to list sync. Okay. Life insurance, clothing, gifts, and vacation. Okay. And now we're going to put, what was that dollar amount? 571. We'll put that 571 up into our sinking fund category. So now what do we have left? We've got 587. So how does this work now? So what that means is when an oil change comes, let's say in 1 month, we needed an oil change, or we needed 2, 130 bucks, right? We've got them. Next month, one of our annual subscriptions is due, $125 to Costco. We put it in there. We still have money left, right? So it's going to be able to handle those smaller items. So then we look at our long-term savings, and we're not going into a savings and goal setting and how do we determine how much money we need to set aside. But let's just say for long-term savings, they're putting 250 away. That could be things like maybe a home renovation down the road or replacing a car down the road. Something beyond typically 3 to 5 years is what we'll say is our longer term savings. So 250. This all assumes these people have a 3 to 6 month emergency fund set up. Otherwise, we'd be squeezing this budget a little more. Okay. But the idea would be they still have $82 left, and they could put that into any of these other categories. They could save for home repair, maybe other miscellaneous households, whatever they think they might want to use that in, but they could allocate that $82. But that is how you figure out your sinking fund and how much you want to be putting in there. We did our budget with the basic things that we need that happen every month. We set aside those other items that are only occasional expenses. We looked at the annual total of those items, and we tried to determine which ones could actually fit in a budget for the month it popped up in, right? Because we have a new budget every month. We're not trying to do a cookie cutter budget where every expense we can think of annual is just divided by 12 and we're keeping track of all these different things. There's some budgeting software that does it for you, but it doesn't allow you to really be as intentional as you should. But this is how you would determine sinking funds. I use a budgeting software myself, but I always like to use Excel when I'm moving numbers around just because it's forgiving and you can manipulate it much easier. It does some math for me as opposed to just trying to enter in final information into a budgeting software. So I hope this helps you. If you have more questions, feel free to shoot me an email. It's paul@dollarwise.com. Dollarwise is spelled DOLLARWHYS. So paul@dollarwise.com. And I'm always happy to help you go through your scenario to figure out the best way to have your budget, set your goals, and have your sinking funds.